I've always had very ambitious reading goals, and one of the most consistent New Year resolutions that I've always had is to read more every single year. And I've had ambitious resolutions that have ranged from, reading 52 books over a span of a year, one for every single week, which I now realize is very stupid. Then I sort of tried to tone it down to 26 books, just half of it, so like one book every 2 weeks. But I always end up finding myself not being able to read more than even 10 books in a given year. And I think the number of books that I read last year was around 6 or 7. So it's definitely strange when I say that these are the 5 books that I want to read this month. But nonetheless, these are the 5 books that I'm going to read in January of 2025. And I think the reason I'm documenting this is just, saying this out loud, and putting this out into the world, sort of solidifies that, okay, these are the 5 books that I'm going to read. And it allows me to not get into the paralysis of choosing the right book. I've committed to these 5, I'm going to read these 5. So the first book is uh, Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. If you guys follow PewDiePie, you probably already know. This is the first book in his read club of 2025. So he's basically doing 12 books in the entire year, and this is the first one that he's recommended in January. And yeah, to give you a quick sort of intro to Tao Te Ching, and I read a couple of pages of it. Tao Te Ching is basically it's a classic text about Chinese philosophy. One of the 3 big religions that are there in China. One of them is Taoism, and this is sort of like a classic textbook by Lao Tzu. One of the 3 great religions of China, Taoism, is based upon the concept of the Tao, or the way, as the universal power through which all life flows. So yeah, it's not a storybook. It's more about harmony and balance and the art of living. I'm not sure if Lao Tzu was the originator of Taoism, but I guess yeah, it's a book by him. This was written about 2,500 years ago, and there are a lot of translations, but I sort of trusted the Penguin Classics translation, and the translation was done by oh god, who was it done by? D.C. Lau is the translator of this book. So yeah, I hope D.C. Lau did justice to this book. Yeah, that's about Tao Te Ching. I think it's a very short read. You can see it's about 100. I'm assuming it's not 150 pages. Yeah, it's less than 100 pages. About 102 pages, and shouldn't take too much time for me to read this. Excited to read this book. So yeah, looking, if you want a little perspective about life, this is the book to read. The second one is an old classic, Animal Farm. Yeah, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. If you don't know about this book, it's a very famous book, Animal Farm. It's about this farm in England where there's a lot of animals. Duh. But yeah, they sort of form a rebellion against the owner of the farm, and against the human race by large. And it's about what happens in the farm when the rebellion happens, and not give any more spoilers. But yeah, it's an interesting read for sure. Again, very short read. It's about 43 pages. You can get it done with in like a week. This is actually something that I'm reading right now, so I got into reading this like about 3-4 days ago. I'm halfway done through it already. I read this book as when I was in high school, and back then I sort of understood a little bit on how it is a commentary about corruption and politics, but I was not very aware of the world around me. But now that I am a little bit grown up, maybe I have a little bit more of a perspective. And yeah, it's definitely one of those books that you keep rereading and sort of start realizing. And increasingly, I've seen a lot of these, sort of the commentary that George Orwell has put in the book is I can see the reflections in real life, which I probably couldn't see back when I was in high school, and that's the reason I'm rereading this book. The next one is a big one, is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a very thick book. It's a chunky boy, as you can see. It's 600. Yeah, it's about 650 pages. It's a huge book. Oh my god, I just removed the bookmark. So this is another book that I've sort of tried reading back when I was in college. Couldn't get through it because it's such a dense read, and yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of dedication for you to get through the entire book at once. But yeah, I'm sort of taking my time with it. I'm reading the book one chapter by one chapter. I started reading this in early December and then sort of put it down for a bit, and I started reading other things. But yeah, I think this is the only book of the lot that I won't be able to finish in January. But nonetheless, I want to keep continuing reading it, and probably I'll get it done. I'll get done with it around the middle of February, I'm hoping. But yeah, to give you a quick introduction about Crime and Punishment, it's by this Russian author called Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's sort of psychological deep dive into guilt and morality, and the ethics of human nature, and the sort of gray areas, like your mind takes these moral gray areas when you're sort of about to commit a crime, or crossing ethical lines. And yeah, it's an intense book. It's a heavy read. It goes into it's a dark read, I'd definitely say, but it is a great novel. um and yeah, the last time I read it, I think I got through about half of it, and right now I've read, I think, I'm done with the first part, which is about 100 pages in. And yeah, I am glad that I'm started to reread it. So yeah, that's Crime and Punishment. The next one is, so I don't know anything about this book or the author itself, except that the author is very famous. It's Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. I'm not sure how well you can sort of see the book. Yeah, yeah. It's called Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. And yeah, this was recommended to me by a very sweet bookshop lady in Gurgaon, I think, when I was buying books. And yeah, she was like, "Hey, this is a funny read. You should read it." So I ended up picking it up. I've heard about Oscar Wilde, but I've never read anything by him. So yeah, I thought, why not? Why the hell not? If someone's recommending this to me, it's in the form of a play, and it's set in Victorian England, if I'm not wrong. Is it in? Yeah, it's a satire about Victorian society, but apparently it's supposed to be hilarious. I've read a little bit of it. I did find it funny, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Yeah, a little absurd here and there, but yeah. And then the fifth book is What the Heck Do I Do with My Life? I don't know if it's gonna focus. Yeah, it did focus. It's by Ravi Venkatesan. This I sort of picked up back in November of last year, and never got through reading it. I read the first two chapters of it, or first three chapters, but it was definitely helpful. And yeah, going into 2025, now that I'm turning 25 as well, I feel like this book is definitely going to help me a lot. Yeah, it's sort of it's not it's not life in the philosophical sense. It talks more about, your careers and being sort of prepared for the future. It's about like career skills and how in a volatile world, in a world that's constantly changing, how you can keep yourself updated, and how you can flourish in turbulent times, which is what it says, how to flourish in our turbulent times. Yeah, that's the fifth book. Oh god, what happened? Can you see me? Yeah, you can see me better now. Yeah, and these are the five books that I'm going to read this month. I hope I get through them. I know I'm going to get through Animal Farm in maybe a couple of more days, maybe tonight if I'm feeling up for it. I'm done. Like I'm halfway through it already, and then I'll probably finish this one first, and then I'll pick up Tao Te Ching by PewDiePie, not PewDiePie, by Lao Tzu, and then I'm gonna pick up The Importance of Being Earnest. That's this thing where I keep reading. I read two books at the same time. I try to read like a non-fiction and then a fiction book. I try to read the non-fiction book, which would be this one. In the mornings when I'm in office, when I'm like on my like commuting on the way, because it's much easier to like sort of like get a couple of pages in and then put it down and like sort of think about the ideas that it was talking about. And it's not episodic, where like in fiction where you have to sort of get yourself immersed into the chapters, and you want to sit for like an hour at a time and read the entire thing. So yeah, non-fiction books are like always bite-sized books where you can read a couple of pages, think about what it means, think about how you can implement those things in your life, just let those ideas marinate in your head. Whereas fiction books I usually keep for the evenings or at nights when I'm back from office. I want to, not doom scroll my way through eternity, and sort of, I try picking up a book, which has been a huge struggle for me. But yeah, I will try doing that a lot more now that I have five books to get through. But yeah, so I'll in the evenings I'm going to read the fiction ones. I have gotten into a good habit of reading while I'm going to sleep, but the sad part is my brain has sort of associated reading with sleeping at night. So like I start reading the book, and then within like 2-3 pages I end up like feeling drowsy, and then I just fall asleep. So I never get a lot of reading done. But yeah, I want to get like at least an hour of reading done every single day, which I feel like is a fair, reasonable ask, maybe 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 20 minutes at night. That should be good enough. So yeah, these are the five books that I'm going to read this month, and maybe you should also read these five books with me, stranger. If anyone decides to watch this video, I don't think anyone will, but yeah, this is just for me to document my own life and keep myself accountable. Yeah, that's about it. And cool.